Right
but
now.
dastardly.
My partner was
dastardly.
actually calling you the Bruno Sammartino of the MMA world.
I believe he is.
Now,
I believe
you bring
he
that
is.
up. There's if I can hold you for a moment, I like to tell a story. Out of the blue, Bruno Sammartino calls me up on my cell phone. Now, I had never met the man at this point. And this is early in my career when I'm just running with the NWA belt. And I'm doing stuff with the Ultimate Fighting Championship and stuff like that. I don't even think I was with the WWF yet.
Okay.
Again, now known as WWE. And he calls me up out of the blue. He goes, "Young man, I hear all the good things that you're doing. Keep up the good work. I like what you do with the NWA belt. Bring back the prestige and stuff like that." I'm thinking, so when I finally did go to a convention, again, I don't know where it was at. I heard that he was going to be there. I went out of my way to go in there to meet him and to shake his hand and say thank you. Because, like, did he have to do that? He didn't have to do that. So that was great.
Now you have an advantage, right? Because true tough guy in the world.
Okay, what do you mean advantage of what? Okay,
Elaborate, Mr.
I'm
Montes.
going to elaborate on two points because it's
Quite
almost
the
it's a
advantage.
double-edged sword.
Quite the advantage.
You are a true tough guy, right? So
Oh, yeah.
you go into a situation in professional wrestling. You kind of.
Am I pinning him?
Well, I can't
Do I get
imagine
to
him
pin him?
being nervous, right? Because again,
God, help.
people are shitting a brick.
Sure.
This is Dan Severn.
Sure.
On the other hand, for example, hate to call out another broadcaster, but then you have to do jobs for like Hannibal, for example.
No.
How do you handle
What?
something
How
like
did
that?
you-
A true tough guy who has to sit there and do
how
a
this is
job
going.
for
You
Hannibal.
must like him a lot or something.
Now-
What the? on earth?
let me. I'll put it like this: when I was first working,
Why,
when I was
man?
first
Why?
working with the WWF,
Yeah.
Okay.
it was rather interesting because like the first few weeks, as again you'll find it hard to believe after this is all done because I talk, and there's a lot of people that before they ever seen any of my interviews are like, "Dude, we didn't know you talked at all. You just stay back there and you scare us." Well,
Right.
Typically, I'm a quiet person. I am normally a quiet person. You ask me a question, I will give you a very thorough answer, but because it's so thorough, you'll be like, "going, you already have half a dozen other questions." I mean, literally, you could come in here with only asking me one question at the beginning of this interview. Oh, we're good for the next couple hours easily because I'll tell you, not only will I answer your question, I will usually throw on a story to reinforce it on top of that. Again, that's from the decades of being involved in athletics, but then also dealing with people in different sectors of amateur wrestling, freestyle wrestling, amateur wrestling, Greco-Roman wrestling, judo, sambo, tough man contests, no holds barred to mixed martial arts, but then throw in the wacky world of professional wrestling on there. That's why I always tell people that if variety is the spice of life, Dan Severn is the spiciest of person I know, because we're dealing with all those kinds of people.
I think he's trying to get you to forget your question. How did you put this guy over?
Well, okay. No,
Thank you.
no. Well, again,
Oh no, you don't, Dan. Come back.
But actually, but I'm glad you said it because I was going to simply say, now where were we? That's what I was going to say there. No, I mean, in the wacky...
Was it a roll up? I didn't see this.
No,
Go on.
in the basic element of professional wrestling, there are times it's kind of going, this guy can't carry my jock strap. and now you want me to put somebody over.
Yeah.
And it's, I always tell people that in the magical world of professional wrestling, anything is possible. You could have a midget out there with a feather. That's going to beat the giant because he runs up to the giant and he starts to tickle him. And the giant starts to, and at the point that the giant falls on his back,
Grabs the
and then
tights.
he grabs the leg. 1, 2, 3. Again,
Fast count.
anything can be done in the magical world of professional wrestling, and I leave it at that. And I will tell people, I go, let's keep these two industries separate. Dan Severn also has been involved in movies, known as being an actor. Also capable of doing stunts and things of that nature. Most professional wrestlers don't even realize when they're doing their their falls and things of that nature, they are doing the most basic elements of martial arts break falls to hit and land and on as much body mass as possible to dissipate impact. If you simply go down on a point of an elbow, you could take out your shoulder, you could lots of injuries. So the more that you can lay flat and try to also protect the back of your head.
How smooth was your conversion learning how to take bumps after amateur wrestling? You're not taking those kind
all
of
my
bumps.
stuff was involved in the combat arts first. So I learned from the combat arts first how to protect myself. So now going into professional wrestling, it was easy to convert over.
Easy.
The hard part was I'm so concerned about your safety that I'm like a pipe wrench. More than one type, they're like, dude, lighten up, loosen up. I go, but I'm afraid with the cocoa butter, whatever you got on, or the whatever that's going to make your muscles shine,
Baby oil.
I may lose my grip on you.
Yeah.
And literally, sometimes I have to pipe wrench down on them because if I do something wrong, it's not me who's going to get hurt. You're going to get hurt. And I...
One with Kurt Angle. Could you beat him?
Oh, my God.
Well...
Wow. Wait a minute. I want the Dan Severn from the 80s, by the way, to answer this question.
But see, someone didn't do their didn't do their study here. That
What-
match,
what happened?
that match already took place.
With who? Which one?
Well, who did you bring up?
He said Angle and Lesnar.
Right.
Okay. Well,
What did I miss?
there's only
Could only
Brock
logically
is,
it could only be Angle, right?
yeah. Brock is a lot younger. You gotta look
Yeah,
at
right.
at my age and stuff like this.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a match between Kurt and myself.
So
Well,
do
fill
tell,
us
what
in with
happened?
that Tom Selleck smile over there. Look at that mustache!
And those
Oh my
eyebrows.
God!
I'll just say it went well for me.
It went well for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Magnum Mangle. Very good.
Well, no, I didn't
Very
say
good.
didn't bang it.
So Kurt really does suck.
He was young in his career, and I was much older in my career.
Okay.
So again, that's what I just say that it's like the first time that I was being interviewed, and somebody said, "Well, how was it fighting Forrest Griffin?" I go, "Who?" And they're like, well, Forrest Griffin. I go, I know it. I fought him. Now when I made that comment, now they're thinking Dan Severn took one too many shots ahead. And I go, no. I said no.
Had so many fights.
I just tell people I've had 100 plus fights.
Yeah.
The victories are nothing but a blur. The losses, I could tell you everybody I lost to, and I can tell you how I lost because I either let myself down or I let my my guard down here at this point or that point. So I know about the losses. The victories, they just blend.
Thoughts on Ken Shamrock while we have you here?
What's that? Oh,
Thoughts on Ken Shamrock, who you obviously have great history with.
well, I mean, ask me the question. I mean, if you bring it up, I think, what?
How about the way you feel recently with the steroids? I heard you recently talking over the past couple of years involving Shamrock with steroids.
Well, no, I mean, that it's not that I talked about over a couple of years. I mean,
Yeah.
I pride myself in the fact that I'm lifetime chemical free. Mm-hmm. Now, I tell people, go find another professional wrestler alone that can make that claim. And I tell people, go and find someone that said that I bought anything from them or that they did this for me or did that for me. You're not going to find it because I didn't do it. Just like I made a comment earlier. I've only did 2 training camps in a 20-year cage fighting career. Find some, put it out. I might have did a run on my own. I did ongoing classes at my training facility, but was I training like you look at guys on the current? They're going into training camps from 4, 5, 6 months out. I did 2. Once for 32 days for UFC number 5, and once for 35 days for the Ultimate. I set 2 different records. In UFC 5, shortest tournament victory I ever won. Took care of 3 men in the shortest time they had ever seen.
3-man one, yep.
And then in the Ultimate, just over 1 hour between my 3 people. And this is in up in Colorado Springs in mile high elevation. So I said, I always tell people, just think if I would have actually applied myself, might have made something of myself, But I'm happy with where I'm at.
Might have, yeah.
Are you surprised to see Shamrock still going? He's actually still going now in Impact.
Is he really?
He really is.
Oh, okay.
No,
All
he
right.
really is. I mean, I'm surprised.
I've seen a couple of the matches that I don't think I'd be really all that proud of. But I love Bob Backlund.
How could you not?
I mean, I literally ended up beating him at an event. New Jersey in Atlantic City. It's known as the Martial Arts Hall of Honors event. I mean, it's like 1,800 people show up for this event for their banquet alone. Who knows over the course of the Friday, Saturday that they have all these various demonstrations and seminars that are taking place. I knew of Bob Backlund, but I actually met him through usually on a Thursday night. They have different events that take place, and they had a social gathering, and I had the opportunity to sit next to Bob Backlund and get to just talk with him a great deal. He ended up giving me one of his books. He signed and gave me one of his books, and I always tell people I read a lot of things. Very rarely do I actually read a book. I just because I read too many volumes. I read certain things for specific. I ended up reading this whole book, and we bumped into each other. He goes, he said, "Did you ever get a chance to peruse my book?" I said, "I read it from cover to cover." And he goes, "Well, what do you think?" I said, "I think I was reading my own story." I says, "So many similarities of our background and stuff like that." And I mean, I was very, very complimentary, but not just to be, saying niceties to him right there. I really strongly that there's a lot of similarities between the two of us.
Is that the book that you spent a couple of summers ago calling me every day? I'm on chapter
Fantastic
5.
book.
Oh, it's
Incredible
great.
book.
Yeah,
Incredible
well, it
thing.
is. I mean, but he was ahead of. I think he was ahead of his time at the time.
Really? Okay.
We grew up on Bob Backlund.
Yeah, we did.
Hating Bob Backlund for many,
We
many
like bad
years.
guys.
We like the bad
Oh,
guys.
We were
okay, I
into
gotcha.
Valentine in Morocco and
But
Sergeant Slaughter.
as you get older, you realize what Bob Backlund meant for the
ab-
industry.
absolutely.
He, again, I used to go to the Garden every month. I used to sit front
amazing.
row, and
It's amazing.
But again, he was one of these guys that I can relate to because he was such a technical machine out
Yeah.
there. He just
Oh, yeah.
he knew how to
yeah.
wrestle and things of that nature.
yeah.
And whereas a lot of guys they don't.
And he was over for all the right
and I
reasons.
got to tell you,
for
we
those
used to hate
reasons.
his interviews, but as you get
He's-
older, you
he's good.
appreciate
He's actually
his interviews. They were incredible.
Especially when we would get mad. Bob Backlund mad? Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the funny
Gosh,
part is
Dolly.
because he'll put on that suit and that tie, and then he'll start raving and screaming like a madman or something like this. It's like such a contrast. But when you get to really know, he's very down to earth, very likable individual.
Absolutely.
Now, speaking of likable, I'm not so sure that I like the way you word this because he'll come over here and choke me out. So let me see if I can find a
But
better
that's
way.
why it's good that
I'm glad you're all the way over there. Hey, over there.
I'm on my Prozac today. We're okay. We're okay there, guys.
Great. Two guys with Prozac bouncing questions and answers. Wonderful. Holy imbalance, Batman.
But we're only good for about another, because my Prozac will be wearing off.
It's running out. Oh no! Was there ever a fight where you were actually, beforehand? I understand. Maybe you get butterflies. I would assume that. Was there actually ever an opponent that made you go beforehand? Man, I better be careful tonight. Anybody?
Oh well, I mean, as you were asked this question, a couple of thoughts were already coming to my mind. A question that had been asked previously,
Okay.
and I guess the wording was there anyone that I went out there with ill contempt for? And yes.
How about weary of their capabilities of potentially injuring you?
Well, no, but there was there too. Like for example, Tank Abbott.
Tank Abbott.
For one of the first times I ever saw Tank Abbott, I saw him knock out like a 400-pound sumo with one punch. But the part was okay. That was like okay, he clocked him. But the part that really that got me was as his opponent laid there, his body just stiffening on up in his toes. I mean, what is known as involuntary.
Yeah.
I call it the chicken flop. You can't. It's involuntary, but your body all stiffens on up, and you start going to shaking that motion. While the guy laid there, helpless, defenseless, Tank Abbott went down and struck him again.
Hit him again.
In the moment that he struck him, I'm like, oh, I think my mind, I'm like, you son of a bitch. I can't believe what you just did. I go, how can you call yourself a martial artist or any type of person like that? I'm thinking, one day if I should ever get you inside this cage, evil will have begotten a greater evil, because I could turn on things that most people only wish they could turn on.
When Shamrock backed out, did you request Tank Abbott?